for me, like I still have a hard time being able to have like such strong faith because I've always, for a very long time now, I've always looked at, you know, everything that I've received in life is through me and my own, whether it's like luck, whether it's through just, life.
So you believe.
But it's like, I'm thankful for the blessing and the opportunity to live life.
Mhm.
That is through God.
For
To be able to wake up the next day, it's like, yo, this whole thing happened from you, pressing the button, letting this shit start off. You feel me? But everything from there has been human nature. It's just been life.
And I believe
That's how I've always
in the
looked at it.
idea that there's something
think so?
higher. I just
Yeah,
don't choose
that's
to
why
identify
I'm not
what
there
it is.
yet.
Where you
where,
get the
like,
strength to keep going?
That's where faith comes in though. Where it's like, yo, I know that you've created this world for us to live in. I'm going to do my best to continue to be 1% better, reaching in your image.
You ever
through this
just
shit.
like you ever feel like you were being carried?
I don't know if I ever felt that way. No.
Because every times where say you're just tired, you're like, all right, I don't have the strength to get this done, whatever. You be like, oh shit, that shit's done. And you don't even like feel like you did anything, but you completed the task. And you don't feel any worse or better like afterwards. You're just like, wow, it's done.
I don't really attribute it. I don't attribute it to anything.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like in those moments, that's when you're like closest to God.
Interesting.
Is in the moments where you might feel like your own self-determination is not enough, and yet you still persist.
Is that God? Is that just a change of? Is that a paradigm shift in your perspective?
I mean, I guess it depends on
because it's all perspective, and that's the biggest thing to grasp. It's like, was that God or was that perspective? I can't tell you if it's God. I don't know. I'm just a human. I'm at a basic level. But I know, and I brought.
You ever seen a human heart?
No.
Yeah.
You ever like seen like a lung, like in function, in its as it's functioning?
Yeah.
Like all the different intricacies.
It's crazy.
It's just crazy, bro.
It's crazy.
Everything works
this
together.
This whole thing is crazy. It's like, yo,
you got white blood cells and red blood cells.
Like that's God,
this
bro.
shit's wild, bro. It is wild.
To me, that's
shit
God.
like that. It's like,
it's like when you be like, that's cinema.
Like, how do you explain this? Like, how do you really explain this shit?
Bro, I'm telling you.
This shit, all the gears are working. It's like,
no bullshit.
How?
So,
you feel
for
me?
niggas that be on a podcast.
But it's God. Hey, bro, we talking that good talk right now. You feel me? We talking that good talk. Like, that's what we here for. You feel me? Because like for me, like even what I'm saying, right? It's like at the end of the day, my daily routine, like to me, like how I carry out the faith is like, yo. At the end of the day, when I finish with my day, I'm like, yo, thank you for giving me the ability to go through this. Give me the blessing to, live tomorrow and try again to be a better person. You feel me? That's my daily routine.
Yeah,
just asking for the strength and the ability to have another chance. This shit could be done at any moment.
Can I ask you a question?
What's up?
All right, so let's say under the assumption that I had made, right?
Yeah.
That God is as real as the traffic. Like God is real because we believe, we all agree to it, or a large group of people believe in it.
Real.
And I told my mom that. She's like, no, I don't think I need other people to know to like have my faith in God. That's a personal relationship with me and God type, right? And I asked her, I was like, okay, so if nobody believed in God and you were the only person who believed, would you still be able to? She said, it probably would be hard. And I was like,
she's not a real God fan.
No, imagine. God is so powerful. Like people believe that God is so powerful because what he does to people. Like my girl gave me an example of being in a room where it's like you're around mad people and y'all pray together and y'all cry and you could feel. She said you could feel a certain emotion, a wave
that part
of things,
it is dope to me.
Power that comes through to you.
That's really dope.
Is that God or is that just a change of perspective? So
that's
then,
the Holy Spirit.
if you leave,
facts.
That's the Holy Spirit.
If you leave,
you can feel it sometimes.
If you leave, right, that
or at least
church,
the
next day, you prayed on it. You prayed that your life is gonna get better, and then you walk into work next day and you get a promotion. Is that God or is that a coincidence?
That's like I don't attribute that to God.
It was supposed to be.
Me personally, I don't attribute that to God.
It was meant to be.
You prayed on it though,
because
and then it
when
happened.
the bad things happen in life, you don't say, "Oh, God made that happen as well."
Yeah, you do.
I don't.
The hell, yes, you do.
I don't.
You know,
I look at it like
some
that's
people
just
say
life.
you heard the test.
I look at it as like that's just life.
Yeah,
but that's
like for the
test.
good and
Those
the
are
bad. Like
trials.
that's just my life in this moment. It's like God has given me the ability to be able to have the free will and the autonomy to make the decisions that I think are most appropriate for me. Now, whether they're good or not will be judged when I cease to live.
Yo, I'm gonna say like this. When I was younger, I used to see like rich people or like celebrities and shit. Be like, they have everything. You feel me? And then like, I'd be like, yeah. I was like, God not working that hard for me. Da da da. And they be like, you don't know what their struggles are. You feel me? You never really know. Like everybody has vices. Everybody da 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 da. I see mad of them niggas crumble right now. I'm watching them fall one by one. I ain't believe it for a long time. I see it. I'm like, Okay, shout out the Lord. No bullshit. I see that nigga cooking. He was like, I gave you everything.
He's like, you just had to see the vision long term. I'm a long term
that's how
planner.
it be. It's like, and I think that it's a level of balance. You feel me? And I think that's where like the Holy Spirit comes in.
It's hard, bro.
Shit like that, because then it's not necessarily like you feel it. It's not. It might not even be like the Holy Spirit might not even be a religious thing. It's just a phenomenon that you experience.
Because it's
me in a way.
Then help me understand.
But I don't think it's.
I think it is perspective.
But how would you describe it though? Like what would like for example, right? When you're talking about getting a bunch of people in the room together, right? And they're all like crying because they all feel something together. Some people would describe it as mass hysteria, but that's not hysteria. You feel me? Because it's not like they're like doing anything like wretched or doing anything that's gonna like, be to the detriment of themselves, their mentality or anything else. Like, and it's not like
our core fundamental like
shit. It's the core group of like Africans and be like, oh, look at them over there, like when they're practicing their tribal, rituals and stuff like that, and they'd be like, that's mass hysteria. I'm like, no, they're just practicing.
I was about to say, niggas just type shit.
But like, okay, so then to what I brought up earlier, like the reason why I have a hard time saying like, oh, when good things happen to me, it's because of God. It's like when you have something that happens bad at a very, very high magnitude, it's like that's because of God.
Especially when it happens to good people, right?
That's God.
It's very. That's when your faith gets tested the most.
For 400 years, and it's like that was God helping us to reach.
Because some of those people never got to reach
indirectly.
Because like that's like
that was man,
bro. That's
I don't know if that's God, bro.
That's hard for me to like really like come to terms with that.
That's man.
But that's what I'm saying.
Man is made in the image of God. So
indirectly, that's what you believe.
That's also free will.
So indirectly, it is God because God gave man free will.
If that's what you believe, or it's God if people moved. If people,
it's just not in God's name.
If people justified slavery through their belief in God, then that influence definitely allowed them to justify.
Yeah, but it's just like Frederick Douglass said, bro. Them niggas not real. Them niggas not real Christians because they're going against the will of God. They're violating the will of God, just like the Israelis.
Who defines the will of God, bro?
The will of God is what's written. You feel me? You can look at it like that, but Pete, you can look at it like that, right? You can look at it like that, but like the commandments don't shift.
They do not.
And the testament, the testament doesn't shift. You feel me?
Especially the Old Testament.
Exactly. The shit doesn't shift. But when you're following by it, you feel me? Say you're following the Abrahamic code. There's certain ways that you live. You feel me? You follow those things to a T. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time, but when you violate them intentionally, that's your
What's the difference between the Declaration of Independence and the Ten Commandments?
What do you mean?
What's the difference?
Well, the Declaration of Independence was created by a group of white people that came together and made these laws.
And by the time that they created it, there was actual historical documentation. But at a time where the historical documentation was not there, and it was BC era, whatever the case is, there would, in my mind, I'm imagining there's a group of people who want to control, or like not for bad or good reasons.
But you're not wrong about that because
they created these rules because obviously they want to.
I'm gonna give
show
you an
people
example.
Don't just kill people. There's a punishment.
I'm gonna get my history back real quick. I'm gonna give you an example of exactly what you're bringing up.
But the Declaration of
Protestant
that don't change. The fundamental 10 bills that don't change. It applies the same way.
That's literally how the Protestant faith came about. Because the king wanted to divorce his wife and remarry another woman, but he couldn't do that as a Catholic. Mm-hmm. So he created his own religion to then be able to do that. Mm-hmm. And that religion still stands to this day.
So all of it seems like it's just influenced by man's interpretation of what they believe to be right or wrong.
But those are different religions, though.
We knew that.
We're talking about God. That's not what we're like. That's what I think you're misconstruing.
So here's my question for y'all.
But it's also different religions that you're describing. You feel me? Like under the same God.
But for the most part, there's no identity to. At the most part, for the fundamental agreement between most religions is that it's just a being outside of our comprehension that put us here in place, right? Now, let me ask you, if God is as real and as powerful as the people who believe in him, would God be no longer real if tomorrow nobody believed in him?
Bro, would Drake not exist?
No, don't do that. Don't do that. Answer the question. Don't do this shit, bro. Answer the question I just asked.
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question.
You know what's funny?
I'm allowing you to answer the question for yourself. If you're the only Drake fan left, is Drake still Drake?
If nobody reported about, like, if I didn't have social media,
but would you?
Hold on, let me answer your question. If I didn't have social media, if I didn't have access to the internet, if I never seen a show or he never came to my city, and there was just no proof of this man, I have never crossed paths with this man to know he's real.
None of those things apply to what we're talking about, though, because we do have we have the Bible, all the stuff about God. So I'm saying you have music, you have shows, all the stuff. You feel me? You've never been to a Drake concert. Never. I mean, even going to a Drake.
But even if his music, how can I prove
you don't really know that
person?
Even going to a concert, that might not even still be him. Like you never touched Drake, you never dapped him up. You don't know that nigga's real. That nigga real? No bullshit. But you still believe. You still go every time he drop an album, you listen.
Cause to my knowledge, I see this nigga behind my phone.
No bullshit. I never dapped that nigga. I never gave him a hug. None of that shit. I don't know.
He's as real. He's as real as we all believe him to be.
Shit. But also,
if we all decided not to believe in it, there was no proof.
He's as real as. But regardless, he's as real as you believe him to be. I feel like you're caught up on the idea of like God being like masses. You feel me? Forget the masses. You feel me? Like I'll tell you this. It's the same way I look at God. It's the same way I look at like fucking who, like Orion's son. You feel me? Like,
whoa, what do you mean by this? I'm
like, go ahead, right? Where it's like, yo, like I'm a part of like an army of people that will like fight for her. Be like, yo, Orion's son's my favorite artist. Like, I'm not actually gonna go to war for her, but Orion's son is my favorite artist. So it's like, if I'm saying that, that means something to me. I'm standing on that. So that means that if there's only one Orion's son fan left, nigga, it's me. You're looking at him. It's me right now. That means that if there's none, I died type shit.
But you seen Orion's son with your eyes.
So
there's no
doesn't matter. I see God every time. I look at you when I see God because you're a human being.
No, but your belief in faith is never going to have to be tested because you actually seen them with like the whole purpose of what makes faith so powerful is that you don't know for sure that this person exists. You've seen Orion's son with your own eyes. You know she exists.
I told you I see God with my own eyes all the time.
Through the acts of like humanity, through miracles. That's the whole point of miracles as well, where it's like it's something that happens literally because of divinity. It's like that's beyond the human scope.
Around,
it's like, yo, this is people's.
I look like
these are people's testimonies to believe in God.
I see it everywhere.
So
you watched The Matrix, right?
I'm gonna tie it back.
Nigga was looking around. He seen code. That's how I see the world. Like that's God to me.
I feel you.
It's like he's in everything. It's everywhere. It's all around us. You feel me?
I had a hard time calling God a he. That always bothered me. That always bothered me.
I never liked that. You just say he because we agree. That's
I never liked that. I try to say God.
Understanding that.
I say God most of the time, but I interchange it depending on who I'm speaking about.
Human characteristics to describe it as he or them. You feel me? It's just God.
My biggest point with this conversation,
because I was talking about I see God in him,
is not to prove or disprove whether God is real. Because at the end of the day, you know what? It doesn't actually matter. As long as he's real to you. And it reminds me of the scene in The Matrix where the guy knows, the traitor of the group, he knows that he is no longer, like he knows this is a simulation. He knows what the real world is like. And he says, and he's like meeting with Agent Smith to turn on Morpheus. And he's like in the simulation and he's having a steak dinner and he looks at the steak. And he basically is just like, I know this isn't real. I know when I taste this, this is just the code telling me what steak and all that shit tastes like.
But you can still
but you know what?
Perception of flavor?
It's real. It's real enough to me. It's real enough to me. You feel me? So if that's real, so if that's true to him, then it's real. And at the end of the day, everything that's true to us is real to us.
That's a wild way to tie that in because he was lying to himself.
Who's to say we're not all lying to ourselves in a way?
Well, I will say though,
in the motivations of what we do this for,
based off of what I've interpreted of, you know, let's just speak in this context, Christianity and all that.
But I'm saying,
if you're a fake believer, you're not getting through the gates.
That's what I'm saying.
You're not making it through.
That's what I'm saying. Is that he did all. He did all that.
Like, oh, I lived a good life. Yeah. If you ain't really believing, you ain't walking through this.
And you watch the movie, you know that nigga was capped because he was saying like, oh, all this shit, whatever. I don't care if it's true, and I just don't believe. I'm tired of this shit. I don't believe what this nigga Morpheus is talking about, so I'm gonna do my own thing. Him doing his own thing.
He's basically saying it would be better to live in a simulation than to be in real life suffering, eating the same goop and all that shit.
With the understanding that Neo is not the one. That's his belief, is that Neo, but he's wrong. The nigga's just wrong.
Well, that's faith at the end of the day. So what I'm saying,
shit.
That's what I'm saying.
Because that's the difference
between
belief
hard
and faith.
lives, and they justify it through their belief. Whether they're lying to themselves, whether they're right, it doesn't matter as long as it's going to help them overcome.